Staring raises questions. Who stares? Why do we stare? When do we stare? What do we stare at? Why can't we stop staring? What do we do when we're stared at? Should we stare? We stare because we're curious.
We stare at people in the streets. We stare because they look different, because they sound different, because they act different. We stare because we like it. We stare because we don't. People stare at what they don't understand. At people's bodies, at people's clothes, at people's behaviours.
Some studies have actually shown that it might be a natural instinct that makes you think people stare at you often when they don't actually stare at you at all. We're just wired to suspect that people are staring at us, and this self-consciousness is even worse when we can't clearly see their faces.
We stare at people that dress differently to what is considered society's norms, at people whose hair is different, whose clothing is different, who have piercings and tattoos and things that attract our attention. We stare at people that behave differently, at people kissing in the street, people who walk or carry themselves differently, people who talk to themselves or have a nervous tic. We stare at people who look physically different, at people that society considers deformed or disabled, at birth defects and diseases that affect the visual body, at the people who didn't look like what we consider to be normal and so who catch our attention.
Matt Fraser, a prominent disabled actor, stated, "I've always been aware that as a disabled person, I'm stared at 24/7 by people, but I have no power in that exchange on the street. But if you put me on a stage, I have power and agency and control over the situation, and I guess underlying everything I do, there's a subconscious desire to have that power."
I'm powerful and awesome, and I have these, and I'm a freak and I'm an actor and I'm a freak actor, playing a freak, and it's awesome. Fraser told FX in an interview. Fraser plays Paul, the illustrated seal on American Horror Story, and he has even performed in a real freak show before that because he loves being on stage.
Freak shows have been around since the 16th century, when deformities became an object of public interest. For many of the people in these shows, there was no other options for them. They had no opportunity for any other kind of work. Nowadays, these freak shows are less common. However, as shown by Matt Fraser's role in Teatro Circo's Day of the Dead freak show, they do still exist. The natural urge to want to stare at and understand these deformities causes an unnatural attraction to what is considered freak.
A freak is defined as a person, animal, or plant with an unusual physical abnormality. Fraser's burlesque show, Crypties, was created to raise awareness of various deformities within the world of show business. The performance sparked intrigue as sexuality and the sexualizing of disabled people is something not often talked about. We may look at someone in the street who may be considered a freak and think, how? But we rarely look at them as an object of sexual desire.
We would like you now to all turn your chairs away from the presentation. You have 15 seconds to do this. Look back of the room, at your phone, at the floor, anywhere but the people who are presenting this. The concept of staring at others is not limited solely to staring at disabilities. Those of different race to ourselves, especially those from Middle Eastern countries, often find themselves being stared at in public. Women are stared at on a daily basis, oftentimes by men and from a sexual point of view. Tanya El Khoury's performance, Maybe If You Choreograph Me You'll Feel Better, highlights this. The performance was created solely for men, with the audience being a one-on-one participation experience, by giving the male the ability to control how she looks, behaves and walks, to control whether she can smoke and how she breathes and what her name is. She's allowing herself to be made into what the male wants to see.
By asking the male to read out the letter and then by giving him the chance to either tell her his name or call after her at the end is a way of forcing him to take responsibility of how he behaves. To make him realise that this is the habit of staring at women in the street or forcing them to become what he wants to see is one that should be completely unacceptable in modern society. If a woman were to view and participate in this performance, the outcome would likely be very different. It would likely be far more sympathetic, far more aimed at making the actress comfortable. They would be more likely to tell her their name or to call after her when she walked away.
After listening to this presentation and viewing the photos on the screen, we hope that you have changed your perceptions on how you view people. We hope that you'll consider what it is you stare at and how those people may feel. We hope you'll reconsider what you view as freak, and that you'll realise that these attributes are what these people have to live with, whether by choice or by force. You now have 20 seconds to make a decision. You can either turn around and stare at your presenters, who will force you to see what it is that makes them feel like a freak, what it is that makes people stare at them, that makes them insecure and self-conscious. Or you can stay facing away. You can avoid that confrontation knowing that what you would see is something that you already know, something that you've already stared at them for, that's already gone through your head. You can accept that and never have to own up to it. Those of you who turn around, keep what you see to yourselves. This is a safe environment. If you don't turn around, you don't get to know. It's your decision. Your time starts now.
Thank you. For those who turned up, we hope you realise that these are our flaws. They are what we have to live with. By showing them to you, we've made ourselves vulnerable, even though we know that you have already seen them. For those who didn't turn round, we respect your decision and we hope that you had come to terms with the knowledge that you stare at things you shouldn't always be stared at, whether you want to see them or not.
Thank you for your attention.